Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Math with Mr. W. And guess what we're talking about today? Equations. That's right. Stuff with a great old big equal sign in it. Equal sign. All right. And if you're not quite ready to understand or not ready, prepared on how do I push this on kids? How do I direct kids on this? Because seventh graders, not all of them are going to be ready for equations. They have to understand integers first, positive and negative integers. They have to know how they work, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing them. They have to know how they work really, really well before we start throwing equations at them. So you might be doing that, a lot of that, prior to thinking about equations. So let's talk about equations. Now, in sixth grade, I had a video about this. I talked about, let's look at the equation kind of backwards. So what if I said that x was already equal to 3? We know that x is equal to 3. And so we're going to work backwards. So we're going to do something to both sides of the equation, and that's going to change the equation. So I'm going to start by multiplying both sides by the same amount. So I multiply, okay, this time I'm going to multiply by 2. So I end up with 2x equals 6 when I multiply by 2. So my step here should be 3 times 2, because I did that to both sides of the equation. Do unto one side of the equation, I've done unto the others. And guarantee I know this is going to happen. I got 2x on one side and 6 on the other. Now, you're going to have students that want to put all this stuff on one line. Don't let them do it. Math is vertical. Equations are vertical. Equal sign is straight up and down. That's the way it has to be. It doesn't go across the page like a typewriter. You never know where one stops and one starts. It's very confusing, and it's wrong to do it that way. Totally incorrect. So if you're doing an equation, make sure the equal signs are vertically in line. You always know what the left-hand side is. You always know what the right-hand side is. And you always know what they've done to both sides of the equation, because that's what you're supposed to be knowing. So now, let's say I want to add something to both sides of the equation. This time I'm going to add 3. Add 3. So if I add 3 to both sides, I get 2x plus 3 equals 6 plus 3. Now, that gives me what? That gives me 2x plus 3 equals 9. So my equation could have started out as this. 2x plus 3 equals 9. Solve for x. My job is to undo the things that I have to do in order to get back to x equals 3. So let's do that. Now, this is what I want you to think about doing for your students, because if you create the equation this way, it'll help them to unroll it the other way. So if you're handed an equation that looks like this, 2x plus 3 equals 9, right here, Then you have to ask them, what's the first thing that I have to undo? Because I'm trying to get rid of all those things around the X. Get rid of everything around the X. Now, remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We always did parentheses, exponents. Then we got down to multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So we got those four basic operations last. But here, we're going to try and get rid of them first. Now, let's do that. So we're going to have to undo the adding of 3. So I have to undo the adding of 3 by subtracting 3. I have to subtract 3 from both sides. So that means I have to take 2x plus 3, subtract 3. And that equals 9 subtract 3. And make sure they write this in, because you won't know what they're thinking unless they write it down. Don't let them say, oh, I had it in my mind, but no. Make them write it down. This is so valuable. Believe me, it'll make them so much better in the future on solving equations. Now, this 3 minus 3 becomes 0. So now on this side, they end up with 2x equals 6. Now, look where they are. They're right back to here. Now they have to get rid of that 2 that's being multiplied by the x. It's being multiplied. So how do I undo multiplication? Well, I got 2 choices. I can either divide by the coefficient. This is called the coefficient. 2 here is called the coefficient of x, or I can multiply by its reciprocal. So you have a choice. Let's say we multiply both sides by its reciprocal. So what's the reciprocal of 2? It's a half. Good. So I multiply this side by a half, and I multiply 6 by 1/2. And again, I show that to you because I'm not just putting out some thought that I want you to think about and you're supposed to guess. No, I'm writing down exactly what I'm supposed to do. So these 2 factor, leaving me with the x that I want. What's a half of 6? It's 3. And now I have my solution that I started with right here. So let's make sure we do this. And look at my equal signs. My equal signs are vertical, and they're vertical in a nice vertical line. They're not wandering all over the paper. Don't let your students wander all over the paper. They have to know what the left side is. They have to know what the right side is. Without that, things get all kifaba, as they say in Italian. Kifaba, messed up. Don't let them get messed up. And if they write down the equation right here and they don't know what to do to start with, ask them, how do I get rid of something? Remember, the x is on the left-hand side. And ask them to read it. 2 times some number plus 3 gives me the number 9. So how do I get rid of the 3? How do I get rid of the 3? How do I do the adding of 3? What's the opposite of adding 3? They know they're integers. The opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. All right. So this is a great process to show them how it's done. Now, This is just the beginning of equations. In 7th grade, we also have those that contain parentheses. We have those that are inequalities. And I don't know how far along your students will be. So take this as an example that helps you out. Hopefully, it will make more sense to your students. Have a great day, and you have a great year. And I'll see you next time on Math with Mr. W.